The curse is green. It is always green. It fills the small nursery, spills from the tip of a yew wand, and strikes the child in his cot. There is no flash of gold. There is no rebounding light, no shriek of a soul tearing itself apart. There is only the soft, final sound of a life ending before it has truly begun. Lily Potter's love is a shield of flesh and bone, and it is not enough. The Dark Lord looks down at the boy, his work complete. The prophecy broken like a child's toy. He feels nothing but the cold, clean satisfaction of a loose end tied. He turns and walks from the house, leaving behind the silence and two bodies growing cold. An hour later, Sirius Black stumbles into the ruin. He sees James, sprawled at the foot of the stairs, his glasses askew, his wand inches from his hand. He takes the stairs two at a time, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs, and pushes open the nursery door. He sees Lily, crumpled on the floor before the cot, and then he sees the small, still form within it. The grief that shatters him is not the wild, vengeful thing that would have sent him hunting for a rat in another life. It is a hollow, silent abyss. There is no one left to save. There is nothing to avenge that matters more than this stillness. When Albus Dumbledore arrives, he finds Sirius rocking on the floor, not holding the child, but simply staring at the space where a future was supposed to be. Dumbledore does not need to ask. He sees the unbroken prophecy, the triumphant Dark Lord, the end of a long and terrible war. He has lost. The world has lost. The single point of divergence is this: love is not always magic. Sometimes it is just love, and it is not always enough. The weeks that follow are a brutal, systematic dismantling of a world. The Dark Mark hangs like a new constellation over the Ministry of Magic, a poison-green skull in the London sky. There is no clandestine war, no shadow government, there is only capitulation. Cornelius Fudge is found in his office, the Dark Mark branded on his chest, a rictus of terror on his face. In his place sits Lucius Malfoy, his title minister, his function a glorified warden. Decrees are issued on parchment edged in silver and black. The Muggle-born Registration Act is the first. It is not for registration. It is for collection. Aurors who refuse to enforce it are executed in the ministry atrium, their deaths a public spectacle. The Daily Prophet, under new management, hails it as a cleansing. The Wizengamot is purged. The old families who stand in opposition, the Bones, the Abbotts, the McKinnons, vanish overnight. Some are taken to Azkaban, now guarded not by Dementors, but by Death Eaters, who are far more inventive in their cruelty. Others are simply never seen again. Hogwarts does not close, it is remade. Dumbledore holds it for a month. The castle a fortress of ancient magic against the tide. Students are sent home, the portraits are silenced, the ghosts hide in the walls. The Order of the Phoenix, what is left of it, makes its last stand on the viaduct. Mad-Eye Moody falls defending the bridge, his magical eye still spinning as his body tumbles into the ravine. The Pruitt twins are cornered in the Transfiguration courtyard, going down back to back under a barrage of killing curses. It is a slaughter. Dumbledore himself duels Voldemort on the Astronomy Tower, a storm of their own making raging around them. The sky splits with gold and green light. For a moment, it seems the old man's power might be enough. But Dumbledore is one man, and he is old. Voldemort is immortal, and he's victorious. The flash of green is seen as far away as Hogsmeade. The light in the headmaster's office goes out. The war is over. Severus Snape, standing among the Death Eaters below, feels nothing. The boy is dead. The woman he loved is dead. The man he swore to protect her son for is dead. There is nothing left to bargain with. He is simply what he always was, a servant of a monster, with no hope of redemption. The years pass in a crawl. The world settles into its new shape. Diagon Alley is still there, but it is a place of fear, not wonder. The shops are open, but the windows are grimy, the laughter gone. Death Eaters patrol in small groups, their silver masks gleaming. They don't need to do anything. Their presence is enough. The Weasleys are broken. Arthur is arrested during the Ministry Purge. He does not go quietly. He gets 2 curses off, disarming one Death Eater and binding another before they overwhelm him. He is sent to Azkaban for being a blood traitor of the highest order. Molly is left at the Burrow with 7 children and a terror so profound it is a physical weight. She wards the house until it hums with protective energy, a frantic tapestry of charms meant to hide them from the world. The ghoul in the attic is silent. The garden gnomes are left to run wild. The joy is bled from the place, leaving only a grim, defiant survival. Bill and Charlie, old enough to understand, become their mother's sentinels. The younger ones grow up in a house that is a cage, their only view of the world the overgrown garden and the constant anxious look on their mother's face. Ron Weasley, a small boy with bright red hair and a galaxy of freckles, learns the meaning of hunger. He learns the silence of grief. He learns to hate the men in silver masks with a purity that will define the rest of his life. Elsewhere, in a quiet suburban street, a different kind of erasure takes place. Hermione Granger, a brilliant girl with bushy brown hair and a fierce love for her parents, sits them down in their living room. She is 11 years old. She has her wand, purchased just before the fall, clutched in her hand. She has read ahead, as she always does. She has found the chapter on memory charms. With tears streaming down her face, she tells her parents that they are going on a wonderful holiday to Australia, that they have always wanted to go, that their names are Wendell and Monica Wilkins, and that they have no daughter. She watches the love and recognition drain from their eyes, replaced by a placid confusion. She packs their bags, puts them in a taxi to the airport, and watches it drive away until it is just a black speck. Then she turns and walks into the shadows, a ghost at 11, her entire world contained in a small, beaded bag enchanted with an undetectable extension charm. She is a mudblood. In this new world, that is a death sentence. Her survival begins now. A generation is not a long time. It is the space between one breath and the next, the time it takes for a child to become an adult, for memory to become myth. 20 years after the fall, the wizarding world is a place of rigid, brutal order. Lord Voldemort does not rule from the Ministry, he rules from Hogwarts. The castle is his palace, its halls patrolled by his most trusted followers. The headmaster is Severus Snape, a man whose face has settled into a permanent mask of cold indifference. He presides over an institution that teaches the dark arts as a core subject, where blood purity is the first and most important lesson. Students are sorted not by bravery or cunning, but by the purity of their bloodlines. The children of Death Eaters walk the halls with an inherited arrogance. The few half-bloods who are admitted are treated as a servant class. Muggle-borns are not admitted, they are hunted. But resistance, like a stubborn weed, finds a way to grow in the cracks. It is not a grand alliance. There is no Order of the Phoenix. There are only whispers, hidden cells, and people who refuse to forget. The resistance has 3 heads, a hydra born of loss. They call her the Librarian. Hermione Granger lives in the dark, dusty silence of number 12, Grimmauld Place. The house, inherited by Sirius Black and left empty after he was found dead in his grief, has become a sanctuary. Its walls are lined with the books she has saved, texts spirited out of flourishing libraries and burning homes. She is no longer a schoolgirl. The warmth has been burned out of her, replaced by a cold, sharp intelligence. She is the mind of the Resistance, its memory and its strategist. She collates reports from scattered informants, maps the movements of Death Eaters, and identifies weaknesses in the regime's power. She lives on stale bread and tea, her only companion the snarling portrait of Wahlburger Black, whom she has, after years of patient argument, managed to talk into a grudging, resentful silence. They call him the gardener. Neville Longbottom, the boy who once lost his toad, is now the heart of the Resistance. He operates from a series of hidden greenhouses, enchanted to be unplottable and invisible to the outside world. His parents, Frank and Alice, died in Azkaban years ago, their minds finally giving way. Augusta Longbottom raised him on stories of their bravery, instilling in him a quiet, unshakable resolve. He is not a great duelist, but his mastery of herbology is a thing of legend. He cultivates plants that can heal wounds no magic can touch. He grows poisons that can be delivered on the wind. He has bred a species of whispering vine that allows the scattered cells of the Resistance to communicate across hundreds of miles. He is a symbol of life in a world obsessed with death. His face, round and kind, is a beacon of hope for those who have none. They call him the Ghost. Ron Weasley is the legs of the Resistance, its eyes and its ears. He moves through the broken world like a wraith, a master of disguise and evasion. The lanky, awkward boy is gone, replaced by a lean, hard man with eyes that have seen too much. His family is scattered. Fred and George run a black market out of a hidden cellar, supplying the Resistance with potions and enchanted items. Ginny is a healer, working with Neville. Percy is dead, executed for trying to pass information from inside the Ministry. Ron's job is the most dangerous. He carries messages between Hermione and Neville, scouts Death Eater patrols, and guides fugitives through the secret paths that crisscross the country. He is fueled by a cold rage and a desperate love for the people he has left. He still keeps a tattered Chudley Cannons poster in his pack, a reminder of a world where a boy could care about something as simple as a game. The three of them meet once a month, in a warded room beneath one of Neville's greenhouses. They are not the golden trio of another life. They are not bound by easy friendship and schoolyard adventures. They are soldiers, bound by shared trauma and a grim purpose. In this room, they are simply Neville, Hermione, and Ron. Hermione lays out maps traced on old parchment. "They're moving prisoners from the London holding cells to Azkaban next week," she says, her voice low. "A dozen of them, half-bloods who refuse to register." Neville looks at the list of names she's written. He recognizes one. "Hannah Abbott's father," he says softly. "He's been there for 5 years." Ron traces the route on the map with a scarred finger. It's a suicide mission. The transport will be heavily guarded. Travers and Rookwood are overseeing it. "I know," Hermione replies, her gaze unwavering. "But we haven't done anything public in 2 years. People are losing hope. They think we're gone. We need to show them we're still here. We need to show them that they are not forgotten." "We'll need a diversion," Neville says, his eyes meeting Ron's. "A big one." Ron nods slowly. "I have an idea, but it's going to cost us." He doesn't say what it is. He doesn't have to. In this world, everything has a cost. The question is only whether they are willing to pay it. They always are. The plan is desperate, a piece of beautiful, foolish bravery. The diversion is Ron's idea, born of a bitter memory. The Quidditch World Cup is still held, but it is a grotesque parody of its former self. It is a pure-blood rally, a celebration of the regime's power. The final match is in 3 days. Voldemort himself sometimes attends, observing from a high, shrouded box. He will not be there this year. He has grown more paranoid with age, but the stadium will be filled with his most loyal followers. The plan is simple. While the Wizarding World's elite are watching the match, a small team led by Neville will strike the transport. But the diversion needs to be more than just a distraction. It needs to be a message. Ron will not be on the strike team. He will be at the stadium. He has spent months acquiring the necessary components, calling in favours from his brothers, using every galleon the Resistance has. He has built something in a hidden workshop. A dozen enchanted fireworks, the kind Fred and George were once famous for. But these are not for laughter. They are infused with a new kind of magic, something Hermione helped him devise. When they explode, they will not create dragons or spelling bees. They will project images, the faces of the dead, the names of the forgotten. Dumbledore, Moody, the Bones family, Dorcas Meadows, the Potters, a litany of the lost written in fire across the sky for all to see. It is an act of pure defiance, and it will be his last. He knows this. He tells no one. He simply spends his last night with his brothers, sharing a bottle of fire whiskey and talking about nothing in particular, the unspoken goodbyes hanging heavy in the air. Meanwhile, another act of quiet treason is taking place within the walls of Hogwarts. Severus Snape receives an owl from Lucius Malfoy, detailing the security arrangements for the prisoner transport. As headmaster, he is privy to such things. He reads the document, his face impassive. For 20 years he has played his part. He has taught the dark arts. He has punished students for showing sympathy to mudbloods. He has been the perfect servant, but the hollowness of his existence has finally worn through him. Lily is dead. Her son is dead. There is no one to protect, but there is still something to betray. He takes a clean piece of parchment and, with a flick of his wand, copies the transport schedule and the exact details of its magical weaknesses. He signs it not with his name, but with a single, elegant drawing of a doe. He calls a school owl, one he knows is not tracked by the Ministry, and sends it to a dead drop he knows the Resistance uses, a hollowed-out tree on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. It is a small act. It will not win the war. It will not bring back the dead. But it is a final, solitary nod to the woman who died for a love that was not, in the end, enough. He has served the man who killed her for 2 decades. Now he will give her memory one last gift, a betrayal. He feels the familiar coldness in his chest, but for the first time in a very long time it is accompanied by something else. A quiet, final sense of purpose. The night of the Quidditch final is cold and clear. The stadium is a cauldron of noise and light, a sea of green and silver banners. In the highest box, Lucius Malfoy and his family watch the game, his face a mask of bored superiority. Down in the crowds, hidden under a disillusionment charm and the hood of a heavy cloak, Ron Weasley waits. He can feel the hum of the crowd, the violent energy of it, and it makes his teeth ache. He clutches the enchanted cord that will activate the fireworks. His heart is steady. He thinks of his father in Azkaban, of Percy's empty chair at the dinner table, of Harry Potter, a boy he never knew but for whom he has mourned his entire life. He thinks of Hermione, alone in her library, and Neville, waiting in the darkness for his signal. At the precise moment the winning team's seeker catches the snitch, he pulls the cord. For a second, nothing happens. Then the sky erupts. Not with the planned victory celebration, but with a silent, screaming tapestry of light. A giant, fiery phoenix fills the sky, its wingspan covering the entire stadium. Then the faces begin to appear. James Potter's smiling face, Lily Potter's kind eyes, Albus Dumbledore, his gaze stern and sad. Name after name, face after face, they burn across the heavens. A ghostly army of the dead accusing the living. Panic erupts in the stadium. Death Eaters fire curses into the sky, but the images hold, fueled by a magic they do not understand. In the chaos, Ron Weasley smiles. It is a real smile, the first one in years. Then he is spotted. A jet of green light hits him from behind. He falls, the smile still on his face, his task complete. Miles away on a dark country road, Neville Longbottom sees the phoenix in the sky. Now, he says, his team, a dozen hardened witches and wizards, emerges from the shadows as the prisoner transport rounds the bend. The fight is brutal and short. Snape's information is perfect. They know which spells will breach the wards, which guards are the weakest. They free the prisoners, stunned and disbelieving, and vanish back into the night before reinforcements can arrive. They have lost 2 of their own, but they have freed 11. It is a victory. Back at Hogwarts, Voldemort feels the disturbance, the surge of defiant magic. He is not angry, he is cold. He sweeps through the castle, his presence a wave of terror. He knows with the instinct of a predator that the betrayal came from within. He arrives at the headmaster's office. Severus Snape is standing by the window looking out at the distant fading light of the phoenix. He does not turn. It was a beautiful display, my lord, Snape says, his voice utterly calm. A reminder of all that you have conquered. Voldemort raises his wand. He does not need to ask. He does not need a confession. He can see it in the man's posture, in the final, peaceful defiance in his eyes. He sees the memory of a green-eyed girl and he understands. Avada Kedavra. The curse is, as always, green. Snape falls, his debt paid in full. The world does not change overnight. Lord Voldemort still rules. The Ministry is still his puppet. But the phoenix in the sky and the escape from the transport send a tremor through the foundations of his empire. Hope, a thing long thought extinct, begins to stir. The story of the raid spreads in whispers, embellished with each telling. They say the gardener can command the trees to fight. They say the librarian holds all the world's lost knowledge. They say the ghost gave his life to write the names of the martyrs in the stars. Ron Weasley becomes a legend. Hermione and Neville mourn him not as a soldier, but as a friend. In the quiet of Grimmauld Place, Hermione finds a worn copy of the Tales of Beedle the Bard. Tucked inside is a note in Ron's familiar, messy scrawl. Hermione, it reads, "Don't just live in the books. Remember to live in the world too for me." She holds the note until the corners of the parchment are soft with tears. She does not stop her work. She redoubles it. But she also begins to take walks in the small, overgrown garden behind the house, feeling the sun on her face. Neville, in his greenhouse, names a new hybrid plant, a fiery red lily that blooms only in the dead of winter, the Ronanem. He and his small band of healers and fighters have a new sense of purpose. They are no longer just hiding, they are building. The freed prisoners join them, bringing their skills, their stories, their own deep wells of anger and hope. The resistance grows, not as an army, but as a community. Draco Malfoy, now a man in his 40s, hears the stories. He sits in his cold, perfect manor, his wife beside him, his son asleep upstairs. He has everything his father ever wanted for him: power, influence, purity. And he is suffocating. He looks at his son, Scorpius, a pale, quiet boy who is terrified of the dark arts lessons he must endure at Hogwarts. Draco sees the fear in his son's eyes and recognizes it as his own. He sees the hollowness of his victory. One night he finds an old, two-way mirror in a dusty storeroom. He does not know who holds its twin, or if anyone does. On a desperate impulse, he whispers a name into it, a name he has not spoken in years. Potter. The mirror remains dark, the boy is dead. There is no one to answer. But the act of speaking the name is a crack in the ice. He begins to do small things. A misplaced file at the Ministry that delays the capture of a half-blood family. A warning, delivered through an untraceable house elf, about a planned raid. They are tiny acts of sabotage, born not of bravery, but of a father's desperate desire to build a world his son does not have to fear. He is terrified every moment of every day, and for the first time since he was a boy, he feels alive. Years fold into years. The Resistance, under Hermione's guidance and Neville's leadership, shifts its strategy. They cannot win a war. Voldemort is immortal, his power absolute, so they will not fight his war. They will build their own world in the ruins of the old one. Hermione, delving into the Black family library, discovers ancient magics of sanctuary and concealment, spells far older and more powerful than a simple Fidelius charm. They are rituals of place, of community, that can weave a pocket of reality out of sync with the world around it. It is difficult, dangerous magic. It requires sacrifice, not of life, but of memory. Those who enter the sanctuaries must sever their connection to the world outside, becoming ghosts to the regime, their existence erased from all records and all but the most loyal memories. They build the first sanctuary in a hidden valley in Wales, centred around Neville's largest greenhouse. They call it the Burrow, in memory of a warm, chaotic house that once stood for home. Families begin to arrive, smuggled out of the dying world, Muggleborns who have been in hiding for decades, half-bloods escaping persecution, blood traitors who can no longer bear to live under Voldemort's shadow. They are doctors, teachers, farmers, artists. They bring with them the seeds of a lost culture. Children are born in the Burrow. Children who learn of the Dark Lord as a figure from a scary story, not as a reality that governs their lives. They learn magic, but not just for fighting. They learn healing charms from Ginny Weasley, who has her mother's warmth and her father's quiet strength. They learn herbology from Neville, who teaches them how to grow food and medicine. They learn history from Hermione, who ensures that no one forgets what was lost, and no one forgets the cost of their small, fragile piece. They build a library. They start a school. They play Quidditch on handmade brooms in the sheltered sky of their valley. It is a small world, a patch of light in an ocean of darkness, but it is real. Voldemort, ancient and consumed by his own paranoia, barely notices. His enemies are the whispers in his own court, the imagined betrayals of his most loyal followers. The world outside the sanctuaries withers, but inside, something new is taking root. This is what it costs. It costs the boy who lived. It costs his parents, his godfather, his teachers. It costs Dumbledore's grand plan and the hope of a single decisive victory. It costs Ron Weasley's smile and Percy Weasley's life and Arthur Weasley's freedom. It costs Hermione Granger her parents and Neville Longbottom his childhood. It costs a generation their laughter, their safety, their world. The price is absolute, but this is what is bought. A small girl with her father's red hair and her mother's brilliant mind learns to fly a broomstick, without fear. A boy with his father's kind eyes learns to coax music from a whispering vine. A community learns that survival is not about winning, but about enduring. It is about preserving not just lives, but stories, songs, and the simple, sacred act of sharing a meal at a crowded table. The world is not good. It is ruled by a tyrant, steeped in blood and fear. It is also true that in a hidden valley, a school is being built, a library is being filled, and a new generation is learning what it means to be brave. In the end, there is no final battle, no triumphant hero. Voldemort will die one day, as even immortals do when their borrowed time runs out, and their soul is a fractured, rotting thing. He will leave behind a wasteland, but the wasteland will not be empty. From the sanctuaries, from the hidden places, people will emerge. They will blink in the unfamiliar sun. They will carry with them the memories of the darkness, but they will also carry the seeds of a new world. They will be fewer in number, their magic humbler, their world smaller, but it will be theirs. One evening, Neville Longbottom, his hair now streaked with grey, sits on a hillside overlooking the Burrow. A young girl, his daughter, sits beside him, her head on his shoulder. She has her mother's dark, curly hair and his round face. "Dad," she says, "tell me the story again." He looks at her, and his heart is full. He begins to speak. His story is not about a chosen one, or a prophecy, or a boy who defeated the dark. It is a story about a librarian who saved the books, a ghost who wrote his hope in the stars, and the countless ordinary people who chose to light a candle rather than curse the darkness. It is the story of how, when the world ended, they learned to build a new one together. That is enough. It has to be, and it is real. This has been an exploration of a world without its hero. Thank you for joining us on this journey.